Welcome back, my dear students. In this lecture, we are going to be learning about middlewares. So let's get to it. Now, middleware is some type of functionality that we can plug in when we're using Express that we can do before the request and the response objects are executed, okay, or are called or invoked. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of these guys ready. I'm going to do a save as. I'm going to do Express server. No, actually Express middleware. You're going to see this a lot in Node applications because most of the times we need to insert certain code before the request happens. All right, and the way you're gonna see this is by seeing something like this: the use method or function. Okay, now let's actually make a request first. Okay, and then let's execute this with a request and the response. And of course, we know that we send some type of data back. And let's say this is home. So let's execute this file here. Let's just say node express middleware. Oops. Well, let's comment that out because we got to provide something there. And let's digest this. As you can see here, we see that response. Great. But what if you wanted to, like in some cases, we need to do certain things before our page is rendered, before we get anything that has to do with the request and the response. And we want to kind of insert something in our application. For example, sometimes we want to pull, let's say, the cookies out of our client's browser and pull that information and use them in our request or do something with it. What if we want to plug in certain code before all this is happening so we can do something with it first? For example, if we wanted to handle static files, and that's an example that I'm going to give you here, we will have to do this manually. All right now, to detect, let's say if we had a public folder and we wanted to detect a style.css files, we will actually need to read this manually in order for our application to work. But we have a static solution for it. We have a static feature that Express offers that we can use to serve our static files automatically without us having to handle that manually. I'm going to show you how to do that right now using middleware. All right. So know that middleware here is a functionality that we use before anything happens. So for example, if I want something to happen when somebody hits, let's say, this route right here, that CSS, I can just say, well, I'm going to invoke the callback function. Oh, and by the way, this net parameter here that you see is just basically a function that's provided to us by Express just to signify that we want the next request to happen. We want this to keep going. So we insert our middleware, our code that we want to execute, and then here or later on in application we continue with it. That's why we have these nets here, and I'll show you how to use it. But right now, let's say I want to, I don't know, let's just say I'm gonna console.log here, and I'm gonna say middleware. Okay, simple as that. And then I'm gonna put nets here, and I'll show you in a minute why we need to put nets. Okay, remember that this goes to the nets. And so let's execute this file. There we go. It says it's working, right? And then we come back here and we refresh. Great. And we see here that it still says it's working. Let's come back here and let's make that request for the CSS. Cannot get CSS, but then you see here that that still gets executed. We don't have a route to handle this, but we do have a middleware. So we do have some functionality that is happening in between this request, in between anything else that we're doing in our application, even though we don't have a route and we're not rendering any other data like we're doing here. Okay, now if I do this, come back here and I refresh, we get an error. Okay, but what if, and look, it's working and then we get middleware. So middleware gets executed before this one does here. Okay, and that has also have to do with that I have this file on top as well. Okay, but we can execute this. We don't even have to need, we don't even need a route here. Watch this. Let's press there. Let's refresh. Let's come back here, enter. And now you see that it says it's working in middleware. And now, not only that, but we get home. So we get all the functionalities. We were able to insert some type of code, some type of data or functionality before we hit this one here. We don't have to pass anything, of course. We don't have to pass the route, the path if we want to execute something there that has nothing to do with that path. But if we want to execute, let's say, some type of static files, then we need to tell it what type of route we want our API to hit, right? Or we want our client to hit. So let's actually use some static files. Let's actually do this here. So I'm going to insert another middleware. Okay, I'm gonna use the use function again, and I'm gonna say every time somebody asks for CSS files, I'm just gonna use the same one again. I want to execute some type of function or something, some type of code, okay? And Express offer us this static function here that we can say, well, I want you to serve everything that I put in here as static files, meaning that I'm going to, Express behind the scenes is going to make that request for us and is going to handle everything that has to do with the files. It's going to download those files for us. Instead of us doing the reading the files manually and sending the response to the user and doing all that. So here we can use this their name, which is very common, and we can concatenate it with the file that we want. So this is going to be the directory we are on plus the file name or wherever we have our files. In this case, sometimes and most of the times we have a folder called public, and I'm going to create that right now. Directory public. Not only I'm going to create that, but I'm going to create a CSS file there. I'm going to call this style.css, and I'm just going to write something here like background all black or something like that. Let's go back to middleware. Okay, I'm gonna write some code that is going to make to digest all that. So I'm gonna use template strings here. Okay, and I'm just gonna send a full HTML document there. Let me see if I have one here. Yeah, I'm gonna send all this, but I'm gonna link it first. So I'm gonna create a CSS link, and I'm gonna hit the CSS style.css. Now, one thing that I want to explain to you here is that this static function here is going to do a whole bunch of things behind the scenes, but one of the things that it's going to do, right, the way that I'm setting it up here, is that whatever files come after this, if this is style.css, is going to serve that statically. It's going to make that request and handle everything for us behind the scenes. I can name it whatever I want. Basically, I'm just setting up the folder, and everything that comes inside that folder is going to be handled statically every time somebody hits this route. So right now we are here. We are going to hit this route because we have /CSS and then / whatever comes after that. This static is going to, the static function is going to pick it up and it's going to serve that statically. I'll show you that in a minute. Let's just put this in here. That was the HTML that I just took from that global.html. Let's just take that out from there. We don't need it there. And let's come back to Express there. So we're making that request. Let's see how that works now. It says it's working. Boom. And as you can see, the screen just turned black and we're getting some data in there. Okay, that's because we are getting that file is being served statically. We don't have to handle that ourselves. Remember that what we got here is a server, guys. This is a server, and everything has to be done manually by us. Okay, serving static files, reading images, serving the images to the client, doing everything automatically. I mean, manually for our clients, right? Whoever is asking for the information. So we would have to done this manually like we were doing before when we were reading files. We were doing that exactly like this from Node right here. As a matter of fact, right here we have this. We're using the file system to read a directory, and we are displaying the content. We would have to do something like this if we would have want that file to be read and digested by a application. Not exactly like this, but you get my drift. We will have to do it manually. So this middleware here is helping us a lot by giving us the chance to do everything behind the scenes. Okay, and handle that all that request for us. So let's go back here and let's look at the console real quick. And if you look at the network console, when you make this request, you can see that in localhost right here. All right, pretty cool stuff, guys. There we go. This is the style.css. As you can see, this is the a request. And look at that, the path right here. See that? So let's come back here, and now we can go to that public directory here, okay, and change the font color. Let's see if I haven't forgot my CSS yet. And as a matter of fact, I think I have. Color white. Let's see if I have not forgotten. There we go. All right, so that way you can see more what's going on. Anyway, I hope this was very helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next lecture, guys. Take care.